What's going on, everyone? Sean here with Triangle of Truth, wishing everyone a very happy holidays. At the time of filming this, it is early morning on Christmas Eve. Thought I would get a video in to talk with everyone before I went and saw my family. So with that said, let's jump right into it. So today I wanted to talk about some of my favorite art in books that I've read throughout this year. So I've got a list of 6. I'm sure I could list a whole lot more, but these were 6 that really kind of stood out to me that I could jot down right off the top of my head. So I want to talk with them with you guys. The very first one on my list is a fairly new series that just started. It's only on like issue 3 or 4. And that is called We Only Find Them When They're Dead. The story of this book, for me, is at least it's a little confusing, or it's at least lacking some substance. I'm hoping within the next couple of issues they really dive into the meaty part of the story. But all that aside, visually, every book so far has been really, really good. Caveat to that is at times the art and the pages can be a little dark, and by that I mean actually like dark, just not enough color and light for you to really see what's going on. But they are in space, and obviously there's not a whole lot of light in space. So, take that for what you will, and, hopefully if you've read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But all that aside, it is a visually stunning set of comics so far. And that is kind of what's kept me reading them, is because I want to open the pages and I want to look at that while I'm reading the story, just hoping that the story gets a little better. But like I said, that's, like number 6 on this list, so that's what I'm going to start with. The next one is the Ruby run that DC did earlier this year. It's kind of like a season, or a volume, I should say, because they do their seasons and volumes, like a 2.5 or 3.5. They focus on what happens more in between when, like, Yang loses her arm and this and that, and when everybody's off separated doing their own thing. Blake, when she goes home, what you see before the beginning of that particular volume in the actual animated series, and things like that. I don't think the book got enough credit for how good it was art-wise, because you're trying to take an anime and do it in a comic book form, and I thought they did a good job of taking the anime and bringing it to a comic book world, and it's still looking like what you see on TV. And I thought that was great. I collected the variant covers of all of them. So cover-wise, the variant covers are some of the most amazing ones. There's a Jim Lee variant. Then there's 4 individual issues where it is very high, stunning drawings of the individual members of Team Ruby. With Weiss, Blake, Yang, and Ruby. And they're all, like, those are probably 4 of my favorite covers of all time when you talk comics. So definitely check out that entire series. I want to say it's 5 or 6 issues. Really good read, especially if you're a Ruby nerd like I am. It helps give you a little more background story to what you see, even if you've already watched everything through volume 8 there is on TV now, it's still a nice filler. It helps give you some substance. Alright, so the next one on my list is, actually I haven't read it all the way through yet, but it was one of those, when I pulled the tray down off the rack at the store and I looked through it, just, you want to talk about probably, at least for me, maybe the best artwork I've seen all year. That's Monstrous Volume 1. The story in and of itself is good, but I'll tell you what, artwork wise, for me at least this year, I can't think of anything else that was just visually more enthralling. That's probably the best word I can use to describe it. It's amazing. The use of colors, the scenery, the world that this whole story takes place in, they did an amazing job. It's one of the best jobs I've ever seen, seeing a story told on paper. You could almost take it literally, and if you could just make it move, it to me at least, it's that good. You might take that as an over exaggeration, but that's just honestly how I feel about it. The next book is another DC one. I actually did a review on this story, and that's Green Lantern Earth 1 Volume 1. And we'll try to put a link, somewhere down in the description to it, so that you guys can go check that out. Artwork wise, this was actually the better part of the book. The story was good. It was a cool retelling, Elseworld story of Green Lantern, Hal Jordan. There were times where I was kind of like a little bored and then brought back in, but visually the whole time it kept me there. I was there. I was at least in the story. So from that standpoint, I feel like they really nailed it. And with I've done the Superman Volume 1. I've got Volume 2 that I'm going to read. The Earth 1 books in general, the way they do that world and the artwork, to me is great. They make the people, they look a lot more like actual people, which to me is cool. It's hard to make a comic book character look like that at times, but still, still seem like they're a super. Actually, I'm not. I kind of went off track on that one, but nonetheless, you get it. They make them look really like Kilowog. You could actually really see that's what Kilowog would look like in front of you. That's kind of what I was going for in a very roundabout way. So, whatever. The next one is a book you've heard me harp on so much this year, and that's Something is Killing the Children. Everything about that series for me is great. Artwork, story, you name it. It's my favorite thing going right now. I know I've talked a bunch about it, ad nauseum. Take it for what you will, but even going into next year, it'll be hard because it's still ongoing. I can't wait to read it. My very last one was my first time getting to read a Skottie Young book. Skottie Young wrote the story, and also it was my first time really getting to experience Skottie Young's art, and that is I Hate Fairyland. This was a book that I needed to read to get myself out of a funk, because kind of starting at the beginning of the year, I was getting a little bored of just reading superhero and villain stories. And so I was having a hard time picking up a book and whatnot. So I decided, with a lot of things this year, but comics is, especially as it relates to the channel, to diversify and just check out other genres, stuff that's not superhero related, stuff that's, I really got into horror stuff, like Something's Killing the Children, Pestilence, stuff like that. I Hate Fairyland, I just want to have a good time reading a book. And not only is the story great with the kind of things they use for language and things like that, but Skottie's artwork, I'm instant fan. I mean, I'd followed him on Instagram and seen some of his drawings, but to go through and see how he illustrates an entire book, I was honestly blown away. And definitely, I would say that might be why that's my favorite book art-wise of the year, because it was just the coolest world that you could ever be a part of. Monstrous might be more enthralling to look at, but I Hate Fairyland just captured the imagination a lot more, and everything about the book is solid. So if you've not read any of the 4 volumes, I don't know what you're doing. Get down to the comic store, get all 4 volumes, or there's 2 really cool hardcover books. Get those. Check it out. I guarantee you'll love it. Anyways, that is all I've got for this. Hopefully throughout this video, some of the artwork that you've seen on the screen, you'll get a good idea of why I like these books, and hopefully it'll encourage you to go down, support your local comic shop, and pick some of this stuff up if you haven't already. If you have read any or all of these books, let me know in the comments what you think of them. Let me know some of your favorite artwork that you've seen throughout this year. As always, stay safe, stay healthy. Merry Christmas, everyone. Have a good one. Later, guys.